Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Green Man channel. Hope you're all good and well and ready for another episode of Symphonic Sundays. For this particular episode, I'm joined by JC Rock and Metal Reviews because we're going to be doing another one of these ranking challenges, this time for probably, I would say, the biggest band on the symphonic metal scene, one of the originals from the 1990s, and that is, of course, Nightwish. Formed by Thomas Holopainen, Tarja Turunen, and Empo Vorinen. I'm not sure if I've got those pronunciations perfect, but they formed the band back in 1996. They have 9 studio albums to their name, and so we're going to be ranking these from our least favorite to our favorite, taking it in turns, much like with the Within Temptations video that I did, which we'll do on a couch a few weeks back. So, how are you doing today, JC?
Oh, good, thanks.
Good, ready for this challenge?
Yep, I'm ready.
All right, do you want to kick off then with your number 9, your least favorite?
I'll start. Okay, I actually like my number nine and my number eight. I was kind of like going back and forth, but for number nine, I picked a Human to Nature, and I think the biggest issue with this is that it's a double album, and then the second half of the album where it had that orchestral stuff, it's just something that I'd probably never listen to. I know, like if you like buy this album like on a CD or vinyl, like it would be okay because the first like 10 songs aren't that bad, but I just like that second half, unless you like that type of music. But I didn't like the second half. But as far as the first half of the album, I thought it was pretty good. Opening track music, I think that was pretty epic. I like the drums in that one. Noise, I thought that was some typical Nightwish. Shoemaker, that was pretty good. Some heavier guitars in that one. Harvest has some like folk metal on that one, and that one has a different vocalist. Troy Donackley. He did the lead vocal, so that was like a different type of song. Then there was Pan, How's the Heart, probably my favorite. I really like Flora's vocals on that one. Procession was good. Tribal was good. Has some pretty cool drumming on that one. And the other song, which was maybe my favorite or second favorite, Endlessness, kind of slow. This one has Marco on vocals, and I really like the vocals. And it was almost like them doing like doom metal. But everything after that, like once you get to the second disc, it was just like I didn't listen to it. So for that reason, I have it at the end, but it's not like a bad album. That's my number nine. Yeah.
Yeah, so my number 9's the same, Human to Nature as well. And I agree with you. I think that the second disc, I don't really know. Um, I mean, why, when you've also got great vocalists and you've got Floor Jansen, why you wouldn't make sort of best use of that for the full length of a Nightwish
Yeah.
album in a way. It's kind of surprising. And it's, I mean, I don't necessarily mind that second disc being on in the background if I'm doing some reading or something. I find
Yeah.
that, but not for a Nightwish album. And for Nightwish's usual standards, even the first disc falls a little bit flat. I don't think it's bad. I think it starts off really well, like Music and Noise. I do like those tracks. But as that first disc goes on, it kind of loses me a little bit personally. I feel that, you know, as far as the Nightwish standard, because I feel like with all their other albums, they've set a really high standard. So even the first disc of this album doesn't quite ignite my excitement the same
Yeah.
way a lot of their other albums do. So it just didn't quite feel like the usual Nightwish, really. I don't know. The songs are generally pretty good, to be fair. But yeah, like you say, it's just, I don't know. It just didn't hit the mark for me like other Nightwish albums do. So it's my least favorite as well. It moves us on to your number 8.
My number eight is the debut, Angels Fall First. Not a bad album, but it's like I was reading up on it, and like I think it was like supposed to be like a demo, but like the label just released it anyway. It's kind of raw. It's a different sound. It's a little more like power metal, folk metal, but it's still pretty good. I thought it had some good stuff. Elven Path, that's like kind of like power metal.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Astral Romance, that's like a slow song. This one has the a Tarja on vocals. I like the song Tutankhamen with the Middle Eastern melodies. And The song "Know Why the Nightingale Sings." That one kind of reminded me of that like '80s hard rock with the keyboards. Kind of like that one. And then the last four songs were kind of like a four-part song. Was like very like folk music, but some of it sounded like '80s soundtrack. So I thought that was pretty good. But compared to the rest of the albums, it's significantly weaker, but it's still a decent album. So that's my number eight. Yeah.
Yeah, well, so far on exactly the same page because my number 8 is also Angels Fall
Yeah.
First for pretty much exactly the same reasons as you said there. I do think it's obviously their first album, so they are still not really got a fully realized sound or chemistry yet. They're still in their
Yeah.
early days. And I think that really shows because the songs are kind of inconsistent. The album doesn't feel like it flows. Then there's that weird song, The Carpenter, um, which has actually grown
Yeah.
on me a bit because I don't know this album very well, to be honest. So I haven't given it a huge number of chances. Um, but that song has started to grow on me a little bit more, but I don't think the singing's very good on that particular song. Well, surprisingly, when you're talking about Nightwish, you very rarely criticize singing, but
Yeah.
on that song, I didn't particularly like singing. And yeah, it's okay, but compared to all the other albums, as you said, the next album is like a huge leap for me in quality.
Yeah.
I think once we get to our top seven, then we'll start to go in different directions because my number seven's a bit of a shock. So yeah, anyway, which means your number seven is next, I think. Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. So my number seven is going to be Endless Form's Most Beautiful from 2015. This was the first album with Floor, and I think like Floor is like a really great vocalist. I mean, possibly one of the best. I think they just like didn't give her great songs. I mean, it's not bad songs, but comparatively to the others, it falls at seven. So it's still pretty good. I like the first track, Shut Up Before the Beautiful. It's just very epic, really great guitar riffs. Elan, I like that one. It's like folk music, very melodic. That's a good song. My Walden, I like that one. This one has Marco on vocal. I really like Marco just in general. I think he's like one of the key players in Nightwish. That's a really great song. And the last song, The Greatest Show on Earth, it's 24 minutes, but I think it's pretty good.
Mm.
It doesn't really like it doesn't drag. I think it's a decent song for the song length. So I think some weaker moments, maybe the Eyes of Sharbak Gula, that was an instrumental, but otherwise I think it's decent, but compared to the other ones are better, but that's it. So that's my number seven.
Yeah, I gave a look of surprise just because that's also my number seven, but I'm pretty sure 90% of the Nightwish fan base would have this higher up than we do. This album and this one's most beautiful because everywhere I go, when I look at all the reviews, um, they're all really positive for this album. Or at
Yeah,
least when I look at the ratings, and then I think, but I don't really, when this album first came out, I think I did really like it, but since then it's drifted away further and further. If I'm going to revisit a Nightwish album, it's going to be one of the next top six, more likely than this one. And I've been trying to think, why is it? Because the songwriting's good. I think that Flora is really good on this album. I think she's much better used in this album, and her
yeah,
performance generally is really good compared to their most recent one. And I do think it's all round a very, very solid album with lots of, the singles were really good, if I remember right, too. And so I had to ask myself, why is it that I'm putting this so low down at number seven? And I think it's because it feels so clean and tight and like really polished and, um, you know, almost over sanitized. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the production.
yeah,
They've gone very super symphonic, super orchestral. Um, and I miss that dark, rougher edge that they had with the earlier power metal, gothic stuff that they used to do, I think, up to a point. But I still like this album a lot. As I say, it's a huge leap up from number 8. And there's lots of good songs on here. I think the ones you said, I think the Todd's track's really good. I really like Idamar Rue. And I like the concept and the inspiration behind this one, drawing from science and the power of reason, and having the bit of
yeah,
Richard Dawkins. I think And he actually got on stage with them, I think, for a live performance as well, which is really interesting. But yeah, anyway, that's my number seven, same as yours. So I'm surprised that we both picked that as our number seven. That's and so far we have to tell everybody that we haven't looked at each other's lists because sometimes people won't believe us. But there we go. Now, what's your number six then? Will we finally go in different
I'm
directions?
kind of interested to see if we still match. My number six, I went with Oceanborn from 1998. So this is the second album, a very unique album. I think it kind of like it was a big step up from the debut, and I feel it's unique. I kind of like felt there was a little more like similar to bands like Epica or like Therion, like because they had like some of these like harsher vocals with the male vocals and then the operatic female vocals from Tarja. This was before Marco joined the band, so the vocals were from Tuamis, I believe. And great songs. I like "Devil in the Deep Ocean." Just the male and female vocals are really great in that one. Passion and the Opera are just this is just like Nightwish kind of finding their sound.
Mm,
You got the mix of the heavy guitar riffs and symphonic sounds. Let's see what else. The Pharaoh Sails to Orion. Really I really like the dark and evil
yeah,
vocals, and
I like that
they
one.
get really heavy. I mean, I think they go into like speed metal like
Mm,
territory in this one. And just the contrast between the heavy male and the operatic female. That's why I was comparing them to like Epica. I think they really capture that on this song. Walking in the Air, super catchy, but one of the better ballads. I think that's the kind of song that just like sticks in your head. That chorus, like you can't get it out of your head. And
yeah, it's a cover song.
overall, I think
Cover
yeah,
song,
I like everything. I think like the only weaker song was Swan Heart for me, and I think that is the reason I have it at six. But otherwise, really a strong like sophomore album. So that's my
yeah.
six.
I just ordered a physical copy of that album because on
Cool.
revisiting it, I don't want to give away where it is in my rankings, but I kind of have, I guess, revisiting it. I've quite enjoyed it, so I ordered a CD of it just today. This is the problem with doing these rankings is it makes you want to buy like more
Yeah.
albums from these artists, and you end up thinking, I'm going to go over my budget or whatever for the month. But yeah, yeah, good pick and good reasons. But this is where finally my number six is going to be different. So we're going to go slightly differently. My number six is Imaginarium, the second one with Annette on, and I actually really like this album a lot. I love it
Yeah.
really, and I feel bad that it's at number six. It's just a bit over the top for me and a bit excessive with all the orchestration and the sort of stage musical style. And if I want to see a stage musical, I do prefer to go to those and see them in person rather than having them as an album as such. I think for me, for my own personal preferences, but I think Annette does really well on this album. I think that there's some great tracks. Like it's one of those albums where there's quite a lot that I'm not too bothered about, but the songs I like, I really love. Like Story Time. I think it's I Want My Tears Back. Um, what's the other one I like? Rest Calm as well. Really like that song. So Imaginarium is my number six. And not because I dislike it in any way. I really like the album a lot, but it's just the next five for me are ones that I really love. So I had to fit it in somewhere. So that's my number six, Imaginarium, which means your number five, JC.
So my number five is actually Imaginarium. I did like this one a little bit better than Oceanborn. I agree with what you said. It is very over the top, very theatrical. Even like the last song, like Imaginarium, it's like a medley of like all
Yeah.
the songs, and I think they were meant to be like the closing credits of like a movie. So I thought it was, but I think it has a lot of strong songs like in the front half, or at least like the first like 10, 11 songs I thought were solid. So something stands out, Ghost River. I like the guitars in that one. I like a Slow Love Slow, very different, very like jazzy. I like the vocals in that one. I like that. That one's really good. I Want My Tears Back, like you were saying. It's just very classic sound, some heavy stuff on there. Scare Tale. That one reminded me of like some horror movies, like Nightmare on Elm Street. I really like this, the sound of that one. Then Arabesque, very over the top, but you know, it's an instrumental with the Middle Eastern sounds. Rest Calm, that one again. Anything with the vocals with Marco, I really like.
Yeah.
The Crow, the Owl, and the Dove, Marco and Annette doing the duet. I think two great vocalists, and I think maybe a Song of Myself was the long song, 13 minutes. That one maybe a little weaker one, but I thought
Yeah.
that it was still good enough, and for that reason, I have it at number 5. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's still such a shame Marco's left, isn't it? He really brought something I thought that works well with the band. Yeah, so my number 5 is Oceanborn. So yeah, we're still roughly on the same lines here. I think I really liked this album more than I remembered liking it on revisiting it for this. And I think that Taya comes into her own more in this album. She sounds great operatically. I really like her opera stuff on this album. And the songs are just really affecting. They're moodier. They're sort of memorable choruses on this album. Sleeping Sun, which I think was on the reissue of the album, is an excellent, excellent ballad. One of the best I think that I've heard from Nightwish before. Love Stargazers, Sacramento Wilderness, and The Riddler. I really liked that track on this album as well. And it's pretty good front to back. I don't think there are many weak points at all. And like I say, I'm a bit surprised. I think this was lower down in my last ranking I did on my channel a while ago, if people actually remember that. But I put this one at number 7 or 8, I think. So it's gone up to number 5. And interesting that I enjoy it more at the moment than I may be used to. So yeah, that's my number 5, Oceanborn. So we're getting to the real best of Nightwish now, number 4.
Okay, my number 4 is Century Child, 2002. First album with Marco. It's just a solid album. I think like this is the cool. You got that one.
Yeah.
This is their I believe their 4th album. So you know they kind of have their sound established. Really like Blessed Child, just a really great opening track, and Dead to the World. I like this because this is one where we hear like Marco on vocals, and that's just a really great heavy song. Everdream, laid back ballad, really good. Another one of my favorites, Slaying the Dreamer. I really like the heavy metal guitar riff. Really great guitars in this one. Ocean Soul, another really great ballad. Uh, this one has Phantom of the Opera. I think like one of the reasons I like this album is because I've watched like live versions of Phantom of the Opera, and probably the live versions are better, but I think they really did a really great job with Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
And then Beauty of the Beast. It's a they're like epic 10-minute long songs. It's really great. Lots of changes, great bass guitar sound, very epic, and it's just classic sounding. So I think this is just from the middle period, it's just like a very solid album. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I'll taste it night, which is very similar because that's my number 4 as well. And for Nightwish Century Child. I kind of like the artwork actually on this one. I think I prefer the
Yeah.
Oceanborn artwork a little bit, maybe, but it's still nice. Still
Yeah.
good. Yeah, I think I just repeat most of what you said there. Really, Blessed Child, great opening song. Dead to the World. Yeah, I like Marco's vocal moments in this album a lot, actually. He's really good. Ever Dreams, a lovely song. Ocean Soul is a bit ballady, as you say. I really love that song. That is one of my. If we were going to do a top 5 Nightwish songs, I would probably have that in my top 5. I think really like Ocean Soul. And the Fans of the Opera is, of course, their version of the Andrew Lloyd Webber song, and it's performed actually really really well. I mean, I've heard a couple of versions of that, and I definitely prefer this to I think some of the versions of it that I've heard otherwise. It's really great. Yeah, just a great album, and I think this was in that period for me where I really love pretty much everything they were putting out. It's like that period, that era you know, we're going to come on to more albums of that era now, I think, soon. But they're just in top form here. The tire thing is working great. It's all working. So that's your number three now, I think. Yeah.
I'm on three.
Yeah.
And my number three is Wishmaster from 2000. This is the one. This one was right before Marco, right? And this one has Tarja
Yeah.
and Tuamas, and yeah, this is a solid album. I think it's also like a heavy album. You know, they have She Is My Sin, really great opening track, great main guitar riff. The Kinslayer, that one's like a little darker. Come Over Me, just like classic Nightwish. Wanderlust, really cool keyboards, kind of like going to like
Yeah.
some prog rock territory.
Definitely.
Title track Wishmaster, just cool riffs, classic sound. Bear Grace, Misery, some pretty cool like 80s heavy metal on that one. Dead Boy's Poem, kind of a sad song, but that one's really good. And the ending, they usually end with like a long epic song, Fantasmic, and really good. Just one of those songs that has everything. I think this is like the album where it's just like classic Nightwish, probably like a good like starting point for anyone trying to get into this band. I mean, it's not my number one, but I think this is just very representative of like what the band is. So that's my number three. Yeah.
Oh, and my number three is actually Dark Passion Play with Annette, first album. And yeah, I actually think this might have been my number one last time I did a Nightwish ranking, thinking about it, to be honest. But yeah, this album's amazing, to be honest. It's really, really, really epic. And like, there are very, very few things on this album. Like, you know, it's one of those albums you play front to back, I think, for me. Starts off with the epic Poet and the Pendulum, a beautiful song, all those kind of operatic moments and choir moments in the track are done really well, but they also managed to also throw in the really heavy power metal parts, or the heavy, really heavy sections. Um, and I think the production on this album is great. It kind of has the sound I still really like, yet you can see them leaning towards the really big symphonic stuff that they go into in their later years. They're moving away from the more contained sound, I think, of previous albums at this point and going to really big sounding territory for the band. I quite like Amaranth. I didn't like that track at first when I first heard it when I was a lot younger, but now I quite like it. Bye Bye Beautiful, what a song. You might talk about that shortly, JC, but yeah, I love that song. Um, and yeah, lots of good stuff towards the back of the album. Last of the Wild, 7 Days to the Wall, Meadows of Heaven, like those songs. Whoever Brings the Night is great. Annette performance. Um, yeah, that's lots and lots of great stuff on there, but it's only my number three. So that means we're on your number two.
My number two. So I went back and forth between my number two and my number one.
Yeah.
And once I say this, it's going to reveal my number one, obviously. But my number two is Once from 2004. This is just a great album, start to finish. I think the reason it's two and not one, because I think they could have ended it with Ghost Love Score. After that, they had two more songs, which is something I'm not going to be able to pronounce, but Kulema Teki Tachi Kano, however they say it. It's okay. And then the last song, Higher Than Hope. Again, it was okay. I think just that Ghost Love Score is just such maybe like one of the, maybe possibly their best
Yeah,
like epic song.
amazing.
Just 10 minutes great. I love like the live version. This is like the song that like every like reaction channel does.
Yeah.
It's just such a great song. But the album is solid, like from start to finish, like up to Ghost Love Store. Dark Chest of Wonders, super heavy. Like this is maybe like some of the heaviest stuff. Wish I Had an Angel, super catchy song. Nemo, really great, melodic, catchy, great bass guitar. Planet Hell, big epic, really great guitar riffs. Creek Mary's Blood, kind of like dark, laid back. The Siren, cool Middle Eastern vibes. This one goes into like some like thrash metal territory as well. Dead Gardens, just with great vocals, and that one romanticized. Really great guitars going to Ghost Love Score. So again, this was almost my number one, but obviously you know what it is. But I'll talk about that when I get to it. So this is my number two.
Cool, cool. Yeah, brings me on to my runner-up, which always gives away your number one, doesn't it? By process of elimination. So yeah, my number two, and this is consistent with my top 10 symphonic metal albums of all time because I had two Nightwish albums in that top 10, and so it's one still. It's tempting to put this one at number one as well, but I think you're absolutely right, and I didn't really think about that. But you're right. This should end on Ghost Love Score, I think. It's
Yeah.
such a great way. It would have been such a great way to finish the album, but they go on to the a track I can't really pronounce the name of, and then
Yeah.
Hive and Hope. Um, and yeah, I mean, why not finish on such a high like Ghost Love Score, and the album would just be done, and it would possibly actually consider me making it my number one even. But yeah, and Nemo is another one of those songs because when I was a teenager, I knew Nightwish, but I was never really into them that much until I got older. And I remember a little club, like a bar, that used to play a lot of metal, and they always played Nemo. And I never got into it, even though they play it so much. And now I adore the song so much. I wish I could go back in a time machine and kind of hear it in that place and love it for what it's a great song, great track, Nemo, and maybe their most successful single. I think I might have to check my facts on that, but yeah, Wish I Had an Angel's great, and yeah, I think as you've said, pretty much for this album. So that's my number two, which leaves.
So my number one is Dark Passion Play.
Yeah.
I think it's a dark album because this was kind of at a point the band they got rid of the vocal. Tarja left. I don't know why. I didn't really research it why, but they got a new vocalist, Annette Olson, who is a really great vocalist. I mean, she kind of has a very like she's a little different. She's like not as operatic, but she kind of has her own style, and I thought she brought a lot to the band. But I like the darker feel. So we got Potent Pendulum, kind of risky for them to start with like a 13-minute track, but I thought it works. Bottom Beautiful. This one again, they continued that sound that they were doing on Once, that like heavier sound. You mentioned Amaranth. I like the vocals on this one. They're a little more mid-range.
Yeah.
I know like Tarja's vocals were more like operatic. Master Passion Greed, just great, dark, heavy. They had those like thrashy guitars. I think this could have been their heaviest song on all their albums. And then there's Sahara, that's kind of brings back that more classic sound. Whoever Brings the Night, really great bass guitar playing. And even like all of the songs like towards the end, I don't think anything gets weak. Like 7 Days to the Walls, very epic. Great vocals with Marco and Annette. And the last song, Medals of Heaven, super catchy. That's like another one of those songs that kind of like sticks in your head. Really great ballad, just really great vocals. I like her vocals a lot. I mean, too bad she didn't like make more albums with this band because I know her other album, Imaginarium, was a little more over the top. But
Yeah.
I think like this is like her best album, and that's why I have it at number one. I almost put Once at number one, but I went back and forth, and I decided just because this album is solid, like start to finish, and that's why I have it at number one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great choice. I think it might have been my number one on my original ranking as well. But yeah, so my number one is Wishmaster, and it was my number one symphonic metal album as well. So I suppose it's no surprise for regular followers of the Green Band that it's here again, and here we go again. So I probably don't need to talk about it for too long, really. But yeah, I love the style of the album. I think this is when Tyre fully settled in, and it just has a great symphonic power metal sound throughout. Lots of good range of tempos and styles in the album. I never really get bored of it. I would say there's one or two moments maybe I'm not quite as into, but I just, as a whole album, it's the album I seem to most easily get through without any issues and really enjoy front to back. Another one with good artwork, I think, on as well. Those early albums, I love the artwork on them. And yeah, it's a great album. Favorite tracks, I think, is one of my all-time favorite opening tracks, She's My Sin. For some reason, I just absolutely love that. I guess it's just a pretty kind of up tempo, just really cool drums and everything in that song. And the title track, Wishmaster. And I also think you pair this up with Century Child, they both go into each other so well. If you listen to this with Century Child, it's like they're
Yeah.
such like a pairing almost. They just pair together really, really well. But yeah, I think this is my all-time favorite still. I know it's an unusual choice. Most people would probably have either Once, and This One's Most Beautiful, because that's a really popular one that we both put like quite low down. And
Yeah.
maybe Dark Passion Play as well would be a popular choice. I don't think many people would put Wishmaster as number one, but there we go. So that's great.
And so that was
Yeah,
so the first time I ever listened to this band, somebody recommended it, and I didn't know about this band like growing up. I discovered them maybe like around 2015, around that time, and
yeah,
the Wishmaster was the first album I listened to. I think that was what was recommended to me.
yeah, yeah. I remember when they exploded with Once, because that's even when they got onto my radar, and that was when I was still at university. So I do remember hearing Nemo a lot. I didn't hear many other songs. I just can remember keeping on hearing Nemo all the time, pretty much. So yeah, they got big, and that's when they broke into the US more as well. I think with Once, that was the album that launched them. But yeah,
Yeah.
well, so Wishmaster was your first
Yeah, but I have, I guess that they weren't that big in the US, but for
Yeah,
that
it's
reason I
definitely
never
not at that
really like
point. Yeah, when they
got
first
into them. But you know, I was starting to around like 2015, 2016, I started to like really get into metal again. I kind of like moved away from it for a couple of years. And this was one of the bands I discovered, and I started with Wishmaster. Yeah.
cool. Yeah, good ones, kind of good one to get you into them as well, I think. Yeah, thinking about it, pretty accessible stuff. Cool. All right. Well, thank you very much, John, for doing this ranking. I know whenever you do a ranking, you have to do quite a lot of prep, and time goes into listening and revisiting a lot of albums. So I appreciate you doing that for this series, and for me, and for guesting on this episode. I appreciate you do a lot of collabs. So thank you very much, as always, do, for coming on and sharing your thoughts on Nightwish and their discography. Don't forget, everybody, to drop a like and a sub, and sub to JC Rock and Metal Reviews. He does a lot of great content. I know many of my followers probably know who you are by now, because he featured on the channel quite a bit before, and also you're well known via Children on a Couch for the Is It That Bad series, where we both collaborate on that series quite a bit at the moment too. And don't forget to sub to my channel as well. And as we continue our journey through all things symphonic metal for Symphonic Sundays, but also obviously other content with album reviews coming up, and horror and fantasy related content too. So from me and my guest, until next time, bye for now.